Welcome back to the Geekset podcast, the only podcast that blends hip-hop culture and geek culture together. I'm your boy Deuces, and this is 101 with Deuces, the place where I speak with creators, curators, and people that you should know. And right now, we finally got her, y'all. We got everybody's favorite nerd. We have the TheBlerdGurl, aka Kara Mahorn. How are you doing?
I am good. How are you? I'm trying to stay cool in this heat wave. I hope you don't hear my air conditioner because I can't turn it off. If I do, I will die.
Oh, and I don't know. I'm probably already glistening as I, you know, when you have the lights, and that's what adds to it. You have the lights, and then you are in either a confined space, and so it's like, man, it gets really, really hot.
Yes, and on top of that, it's like 157 degrees outside. So yeah,
it is blazing out there. So first things first, I do want to say, man, you are probably one of the hardest working people that I know. Like, even today, my brother, who also does the podcast with me, he was like, man, I'm surprised she was able to do the podcast today. I'm like, why? She's like, well, she's hosting. I was like, she's hosting? She's like, yeah, she's at the con. I was like, well, no, Blerd, she's not at Blerd Con. She's like, no, it's a different con. I'm like, oh. I was like, well, maybe she's doing it in between. And I was just like, geez. And then just looking at everything that you are affiliated with. And one of the things that we make sure we do here is give everybody their flowers. And I just want to make sure that you know, like, out of everybody that I've interviewed some heavy hitters.
You have. I've seen your well, I've seen you more on YouTube. I haven't had a pleasure listening to the podcast. I'm more visual. So I'm always looking at other stuff. But yeah, no, Geekset's talked to a lot of great people.
Thanks. And you by far got the most fan questions that
Oh God.
I mean, they came out in swarms, and I was like, yo, that's really dope. You know what I'm saying? And I think it is because of your representation, but the inspiration, because I'll let you know, you allowed me to have identification. Like,
interesting. Wow, thank you.
Because I've always just loved these different fandoms. So as I started creating my own platform and everything, and then just kind of figuring out, that's when I learned what a blerd was, through getting introduced to you. Because what I did was I went to Google and I said, all right, if I'm doing this and I'm trying to blend these cultures and I want to be this Black geek in this world, let me find other people that are doing it. And so when I searched it, you popped up as the TheBlerdGurl, and I was like, what is a blerd? And then I was like, okay, let me figure it out. And then I was like, okay. And then I figured out the whole thing of it. And then I consumed so much of your content. And I said, man, this is very inspirational on what you represent, what you say, what you do, and the work that you put out. And I want to make sure that you are aware that there's a lot of people that support you and that are in your corner and love everything that you are doing.
Thank you. No, I appreciate that. That means a lot. I think, like you said before, I do work a lot. I am grinding, especially since now doing this is like my full-time thing. And so I think when you grind, you don't look up a lot. So every now and then I'll get email or pinged by somebody. I'm like, how do you know me? And they're like, what are you kidding? And I'm like, oh, right. I do put this stuff up, but you're so busy thinking that your little world is, maybe the 12 people that really like your stuff. And then I think the pandemic has allowed me to see that, okay, I'm actually making an impact, which really, I'm not just one of the voices, I'm actually making an impact. And I appreciate you saying that, because it means a lot.
Yeah. And, and that's why, it's like, when I reached out to you, and I was like, okay, if I get her on, I want to make sure that we have everything up to par and everything. So it's like, I've been wanting to reach out to you, but I wanted to kind of build, because one, also, you are on the opposite side of this. You do this as well. And so it's kind of intimidating, because I'm like, man, you do it at such a high level. I don't want to come off as an amateur in this world.
No, start where you are. I tell people all the time, start where you are. It's and if it's a technical thing, like, listen, I've had people interview me where their tech has been kind of falling apart and be like, listen, I'll record it on my side, I'll send it to you, and you do what you need. Like, if we can make it work, I'm here to help.
So one of the things I love to do on this platform is kind of get into people's origins. I call it the origins of the start. But where I would like to start for you was, what was the last 9-to-5 job that you worked, and then what was it like that, making that transition on saying, okay, I'm going to do this content and this other stuff that I do, or that you do now?
That is a very good question, and one that I actually have a very interesting answer for. So I come out of production and advertising. So for like 15, 16 years, I was an editor of commercials and promos and things like that. So I was full-time doing that for a very long time as an employee. And then after that, became incorporated and became freelance. So I was an independent contractor, basically with my own business as an editor, which was my 9-to-5, still self-employed, right, but only like primarily as an editor. My geekdom was on the side. So TheBlerdGurl, I started around 2015, 2016. And actually it was a little bit earlier than that. It was earlier than that. I'm blanking out. TheBlerdGurl's been around since early, like 2008, really. But I wasn't leading into it. I was just, like posting things occasionally, and it was all on Tumblr.
Yeah, on Tumblr. I remember you said that. Yeah.
But it didn't have like any form. I actually had a completely different website that I was running. And so all this was on the side. And then as an full-time independent freelance editor, my geekdom and my profession collided about 2016, 2017. That's why I got a little fuzzy there. So I was like, sci-fi had a large presence, if most people remember, and I'm not quite sure where you're located, but if you go to San Diego Comic-Con, I don't know if you've ever been.
Not yet. Haven't had the pleasure, man, but I'm trying so hard to get there.
That sci-fi has a huge presence there, or they did. And they used to have like, big banners and everything. The first year that they really sort of took over the space, and anybody who's listening who's been to either San Diego Comic-Con or New York Comic-Con has seen like the sci-fi yellow and black banners wrapping around the doors and everything like that. So 2016, 2017 was the first couple of years that they really took over San Diego. And so they had a lot of content. They had people on the ground, they had people in booths, they had people sitting on couches discussing things. And then plus they were covering the main rooms and what was actually being, dropped. So they needed editors. So they subcontracted a company that I was freelancing with here in New York. And they've been for a couple of years. And then finally somebody was like, hey, do we have any editors that know anything about comics? Because we need them. And it was really, it's like, I tease people all the time, like the sister that's on Black Lady Sketch Show, that's the undercover agent that nobody ever sees. And she's sitting right there. That's me. That's basically me. I have never felt so seen in my life. So my assistant was like, have you ever had a conversation with Karma? Like ever? Because that's all she talks about. So I went out and I had an all expense paid trip to San Diego Comic-Con, even though I spent most of it inside of a room like this, in a rig with about 50 other dudes. I think it was like me and one other woman in there. And I was the only Black person, editing content as it came up, drops, people, man on the streets, all that kind of stuff. And they had taken over the entire floor of the Marriott, which is next door to the San Diego Comic-Con, if anybody's gone there. And so it was just room after room of just people working in gear and stuff like that. And so I had not been to San Diego before that, but I had been to many conventions before that, but that was on, behind the scenes. What happened on that side was there was a lot of people, and this happens a lot. When there's productions that go live, there's a lot of freelancers that are brought in. There's people from different perspectives and different professions. And so there weren't that many geeks behind the scenes. So what they were running into behind the scenes were people who were looking at stuff on the screen, and they were like, I don't know who that is. What Disney character is that? It's like, that's not Disney. That's Naruto. Like, the group of people on screen right now, like, who's this old guy that's talking? That is Peter Capaldi. That's Doctor Who. What is happening? Right. So I turned into sort of like a mini assistant producer behind the scenes, because a lot of people didn't know what they were looking at. And then the producers were like, hey, would you like to produce your own show? And I'm like, yeah. And so I pitched sci-fi show that turned into a series of interstitials that nobody saw in 2017 to 2018. It was really 2018. And in the middle of all of that happening, of course, Black Panther came out. 2018 was basically I had been doing the BlerdGurl stuff and geekdom and things like that. But 2018 was the year that I was like, okay, I can actually get paid to do this. This is not just a hobby. Because before that, I had interviewed people and things like that, and I had done my own, YouTube stuff, and we'll get into that. But 2018 was the year that my geekdom and my editing and all of the stuff that I do collided because Black Panther happened.
Just a little fusion dance just happened right there.
Right. And then what happened was everybody was looking around for, we need somebody Black to cover this. Yeah. And nobody, and not just sci-fi, not many mainstream outlets had anybody Black that could not just cover it because it was the stars, but cover it from a geek perspective. So sci-fi was like, do you think you could cover Black Panther? I'm like, I'm packing. Like, and it was a learning experience. That was not my first time on a red carpet. It was my first time on a red carpet as talent. Oh. So I was like, not just like holding a camera or holding a mic, but like actually talking to people and on camera. So it's so funny because people go back to like, oh, you did great. I'm like, actually, I didn't. That's like cringeworthy to me, but that's how you grow. That's how you learn. I just happened to be lucky enough to be on a red carpet to do so. I had done on camera stuff. I had gone to school for TV and film production and theater. So I had camera training, but it was sort of like all of these little things that I'd done over my life had collided. And when I got back from that, I was like, okay, what do I need to do to make this my thing? Not just being on red carpets, but being present and actually doing interviews and discussing topics that are prevalent in the geek community. And I was also very real with sci-fi. I said, I really, really appreciate the opportunity. I really, really appreciate the chance to work with you and to work on something so groundbreaking. But if Black Panther is the only time myself and other Black creators are highlighted on your channel, I'll drag you myself on Twitter. I was real about it because I'm freelance. You can't fire me. You can just not work with me again. And the guy that was in charge at the time, he's not there anymore. He was like, no, you're absolutely right. And he is also a queer creator and was like, they're lacking in representation all the way around. So it was really 2018 that was the turning point. And it's funny because a lot of people were like, oh, you just came out of nowhere. And I'm like, no. I was just writing, like, on my site. I made sure that every single picture and every single blog post was hashtagged Blerd or TheBlerdGurl or Black Nerd, so that when anybody Googled it, I came up somewhere on the first 2 pages. And because this day. Yeah. And that's how you get found a lot by people who are publicists and things like that. Like, my knowledge of behind the scenes in TV has allowed me to make some of the moves I've made. It's not like, oh, she's got this many followers on Twitter. No, there are people that have hired me that have never seen my Twitter account. Right. So, but 2018 and and then that whole year, people forget January was Black Panther and December was Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Yeah. So 2018 was that turning point year for me. And then it's really funny. 2019 was the first year that I didn't edit at all. It was all appearances, red carpets, travel. And it's so funny because it feels like 20 years ago. And then 2020 was the dumpster fire that it was. And I had to make a decision. I was like, there is no work. Like, I literally had booked by January, I had booked 7 different conventions before June. And then by the end of February, beginning of March, they were all gone.
Yeah. Oh,
You
man.
know, so.
And, it's funny because you said so a couple of things that you said. So one, well, I'm gonna go back from that one. The pandemic was crazy because pre-pandemic we were just a podcast. Now we would go to conventions and we would, you know, and one of the moments that we had, we was like, okay, we can make this actually something. We had went to Crunchyroll Expo. So one of the great things that we have the ability to do, and I think it may be a Black thing, I don't know, but we have an ability of taking something regular and turning it into something a little bit bigger. So we just got press passes. And we was like, okay, we got press passes because we've been doing press passes for conventions all around.
That's how you do it.
In Chicago. So I was like, oh, Crunchyroll is huge. Let's get that. So now I'm like, okay, now we got to travel. So I said, we're going to travel out there and everything like that. But then I was like, you know what? Let's make sure that the people that we're in contact with, because we end up speaking with a specific person. I'm like, all right, let's keep in contact with this person. Let's get them a promo shirt. Let's make them feel amazing. Let's chop it up with them, right? So then up to it, like I'm talking to this lady and I'm letting her know who we are. And then she's like, okay, great. Yeah, you guys are coming out. So we came out, we there. And then I was like, hey, you know what? So here's what we do. And if you would like to reach the most people through our platform, allow us to do is a live podcast and interviews. We already got some people. At the time, King Vader was there. And I was like, we already got King Vader. Now we just need a quiet space, but it'll be all about Crunchyroll Expo and everything. So she was like, yeah, she gave us this room. We was interviewing people. We were the best press that was there for her. Like there was magazines. I'm talking about big magazines, but the way that we interacted with her and how open we were, I think that she really liked our professionalism and us just being open and being able and trying to create. So then,
yeah, no, and you're also giving her free press. That's a publicist's dream. That's a marketing director's dream.
Yep. And then after that, so she reached out. She was like, hey, so we're planning for the next one. This is before the pandemic hit. So she was like, we're planning for the one that would have been during 2020. And she was like, but we got these articles that we want to highlight. Can you guys highlight them? I'm like, bet. So we wrote them on our website. We're blasting them out on social media. We're tagging Crunchyroll. And she just keeps on coming back and hitting us up. But at that point, that's when we realized, like, yo, this could actually be something. And now that's when we started. So then when the pandemic hit, I'm like, dang, man, we had all these plans. What are we going to do? And I was like, all right, let's get creative with the shows that we do. I was like, I want to interview creators and people and stuff like that. I'm really in touch with that. Let me start that. I started the one-on-one with Deuces. My brother, you know, he wanted to start this rewatch show with anime and everything. So we started Geekset Rewind, which is our rewatch show. My other partner, Bacardi, he's big on the Twitch, and you know he's gaming all the time. So we launched our Twitch, and I was like, all right, let's do that, but also let's not make it look like just regular. So like with our interviews, with the one-on-one with Deuces, I'm like, everybody's doing everything on Zoom now. I don't want it just to be the black boxes. Let me create an overlay. And so I started creating different China, because I was like, now I want it to look like something. Like when you see it, it's not just what we see right now in Zoom. It looks like something that it's like it's visually pleasing and everything. But it was like, man, I keep telling everybody, I'm like, I hate to brag about the pandemic, but this has been the best year since the pandemic hit.
Yeah, no, I tell people all the time, like last year when everybody was looking for Black people to do stuff, it was like, and I said, like, outside of the horrors of the reality of what happened with George Floyd and the protests and things like that, and there's a lot of people who finally knew who we were, but weren't given the license to hire Black people or talk to Black people. And when a lot of those things went out on Twitter, like, hey, we're looking for Black writers, Black creators, Black whatever, I was like, answer these tweets, answer these texts, get your reel together, get your deck together. They're looking like I'm not the only one. And I tell people all the time, like, listen, had I known that so many people would be looking for content creators and stuff in 2020, I would have literally, I have spreadsheet after spreadsheet that I've made for people like, oh, we're looking for Black creators who, in fact, it's to the point now that I'll get paid for it. Someone's like, oh, can you find out some creators? I'm like, sure, here's my rate. Right. I mean, because Twitter's right there.
And that's one of the reasons why we also start. So prior to even all of this, one of the reasons why me and my collective came together, we started thinking about the Black geek, and we was like, man, you know what? Like, one, the Black geek is always a stereotypical, socially awkward, uncool Black geek in TV shows and movies and things like that. When in reality, there's a lot that look and sound like us. And I said, one of the things that they don't like, it's never just the, oh, I think that's incorrect. No, a lot of the times when we arguing about who's better, Goku or Superman, it sound like barbershop talk. It sound like you arguing LeBron.
Yeah.
And I was like, and that's that passion that we bring. So we was like, we want to be that representation, but we also want to make sure people know that it's different levels of geekdom. You know, it's like, it's not just what you already thought it was, especially the Black geek. So, you know, we wanted to start being able to be that. And I think the biggest, I tell everybody the story, the inception of Geekset, one of the things that also drove it, when Black Panther came out. So we came out around, like I said, like the year before Black Panther came out. The first trailer of Black Panther featured Run the Jewels in the commercial as the and I mean, I consume a lot of geek stuff, and everybody's talking about the Black Panther and talk about, oh, it's coming, it's gonna look cool, you know, and stuff. Nobody highlighted the fact that Run the Jewels is on there. Run the Jewels is like a grassroots hip hop group, and the fact that this is the soundtrack. This is the first music that you hear associated with Marvel. With this Marvel property, with this Disney property, this major movie, I was like, that is huge. And then the second thing, I was like, look at the world we're in right now. If your property does not include some form of geek stuff or hip hop stuff, it's almost like you're gonna have a hard time launching it. Like every movie out is now based off of a book or a comic book or a graphic novel, and every commercial has some hip hop elements in it now. So I was like, both of these fandoms go together hand in hand, because they both were outcasted at first, and then they both were kind of like fetishized a little bit, and now they're both the most leading thing in the world right now. And I said, that's what we're going to base our podcast off of and everything. So it was like, it came to that point where it was like, okay, we got this brand, we got this idea. Let's make sure that we highlight everybody who needs to be highlighted, and we represent it in a well light. And that's when we started seeing things. And again, like you said, last year, Apple, they wanted to highlight Black voices in podcasting. We got featured in that. Earwolf was doing a Black voices thing. We got featured in it. And we definitely made sure that we kept those good relationships and everything. But also we was happy to be that representation. Like a lot of people who didn't know that there was other Black geeks, they got into it from us, or from you. And that's what I love. And that's why I make sure I highlight them so much, because there's so many starting points, whether it's King Vader, our DC World, you, Blerd Online, there's just so much stuff. There's whether it's all of those, there's different starting points. And I just wanted to make sure that we were people that were, you know, up a part of that, and not the toxicity of it, because I know that there's that level of it as well, you know.
Well, yeah, what's fascinating about that is when I started out, there wasn't. Like, I meet people all the time who go like, I'm not going to call myself a blerd. And I'm like, okay, don't.
Yeah, you told me to stop. that one time we was online and somebody was fighting against it. And I'm sitting there telling them like,
yeah. And I'm like, don't fight them. Just let them call themselves what they want. Like, yeah, like I've had people say to me, like, I don't feel the need to like call myself a blerd, or they'll say like, I don't want to separate myself from other people. I happen to be Black and I like geek stuff like other people. And my answer to that is usually, you're welcome.
Right.
Like when I was first called myself blerd years ago, and I'm not the person who came up with the term.
Right.
Some people said it came off of Scrubs. Some people said it came off the internet. I don't honestly really know. But I will say that it was sort of a call sign so we could find each other on message boards. And if I had blerd in my name, people go, okay, well, that means if I talk to her about animation or about being an otaku or being or anime or manga or something, she might understand, or this is, you know, so now, yeah, it's everywhere. And if somebody doesn't, I am calling myself the BlerdGurl. I'm not saying that you have to call yourself that at all. Right. And I also, some of that toxicity that you were talking about also is, as any group or movement grows, there are always going to be people who claim it. So the blerdom and being a Black geek in particular has been around long enough that there are old heads. I mean, I can include myself in that, but there are old heads that are be like, nah, this is what it's supposed to be, not what you kids are doing. And there's other people that'll be like, nah, that's not what this is. You know, this is what it's supposed to be about. If you're not a gamer, you're not really in it. And so, and there's all, and again, to all of that, it's like, okay, make it your own, but it's not about excluding other people. It's not about misogyny. It's not about being homophobic. It's not about, because I run into people all the time like, yeah, I can't call myself a blerd because of what I see on Facebook. And I'm like, yeah, I had to pull out of Facebook. I really, you know, it's very toxic there, I think, for a lot of Black women. And I do still have a presence there, but I'm not active. I have people who help me like maintain my page there because I'm not really talking to people like that because I got tired of fighting people who wanted to tell me what I should and shouldn't like and who I should and shouldn't be about. What I've been able to do, and I think the last year when I started the live Twitch show, what helped to solidify this is the BlerdGurl brand is really about Black folks. And if you want to say BIPOC, you can, but particularly marginalized voices who are fans, who like what they like. We like Star Wars, we like Naruto, but we also like indie comics and we also like indie games. And we also want a space to talk about that and even ask questions about it and learn about new stuff without being berated for like, oh, what, you don't know all of the iterations of Superman? You don't know the name of every single one of Tony Stark's suits? Like,
did I forget the clacker out there? I'm just gonna clap.
You have brought it to.
I know, I'm just gonna clap.
I'm mad because I was definitely expecting you to get it.
I mean, I could out of me. Quickly go grab it.
Just clap. 1, 2, 3.
All right, man. Welcome back to the Geekset podcast, the only podcast that blend hip-hop culture and geek culture together. I'm your boy Deuces in the building. With me, I got my man Liv.
What up? It's Liberace, the instant Puerto Rican Santa, the spiccato playing, beat making, motherfucking legendary ass Puerto Rican. Sofrito Papi, and we back.
As always, I got my man Bacardi in the building.
Randolph today.
Konnichiwa, bitches. You know what I'm saying?
Oh my God. I hate all of this. I hate all of it.
What's good, everybody? How we doing today?
And we got Didge in the building.
What is happening, people? What's happening, people? What is happening, people? What is happening, people?
He's out the booth.
But it's like I said, we are expanding. We are doing more. So like I said, make sure you go to youtube.com/Geekset. Follow us on all social media at Geekset Podcast on every social media. And rating reviews in, man. We are rating reviewers on Facebook, rating reviewers on Apple iTunes, rating reviewers on Spotify, Google Podcasts, whatever platform you're looking at. Give us some ratings, let us know. And then again, this is the only podcast that blend hip hop culture and geek culture together. We are out.
Peace.
It's funny that you say that about like what the BlerdGurl is, because so this shirt right here, the geek line that we have, we started this new movement of geek, and we were saying geek is different. Like being a geek is different now, because it's like you think of geek, well, not you, but like people think of geek and they have this image. It's this person, like I said, glasses, who's, you know, geeky and stuff like that. But I was like, no, there's different forms of geek. So we started this whole movement of a geek is just somebody that is passionate about a specific topic that can go into a little bit deeper. And so we always use the metaphor of, you know, the sports analysts that you watch, Stephen A. Smith and stuff like that. They are sports geeks, because the normal viewer, we're watching the game like, oh, it's just a good game. He shot a three, he made a dunk, like, who, this is my favorite player. But they are going to tell you things that you didn't even know about. Oh, the PER, this person is good because of this and that and the third. And they're geeking out about it. When you see them talking about it, they're going crazy about it and they're arguing about it. And that is a geek. Same thing. You can be, like I said, whether you are somebody that all you do is play The Sims, but you know The Sims front to back. You can tell people how to level up. Well, you are a Sims geek. You are still a geek. And so we're starting this, trying to kind of get people to be like, accept, like, geek is not an outcast. Geek just means that you have a higher level knowledge of something because you are in that fandom. You love it. You're all about it. And so it's like our evolution with Geekset came from same as you. Like you said, you started BlerdGurl, and then now you saw that, like, you know what? No, I want people to be included. It's not about exclusion, and that's the same thing and manifested with us. Because I think one of the things that we do heavily is that we speak up a lot about just Black women within this world. And again, I hate that we have to say it and highlight it, but we do, because again, I've been a part of those Facebook groups and I'm seeing it. I'm like, wait. So just because this person only watched Slice of Life, you're saying that they don't really watch anime? No, like that is incorrect. Like they just because they watch a certain genre, I'm like, okay, so then you see people, all they play is NBA 2K, but you don't say that they're not a gamer. They're definitely a gamer, because like no matter, like you're logging hours in there. So it's like started making sure that we speak up. And it's funny because like I'm surprised that anybody would even come at you, because even as much fandom and geek stuff that I consumed, you know far more than me. And like I said,
they say coming from me. And it's funny because I think last year also, what was really strange is not strange, but it was both. I have it was racist, and then it was folks that just against me or what I stand for or whatever. And here's the thing, I mean, I'm a Black woman who basically spent most of her career in media. I'm used to being the only one. I'm used to being not seen. I'm also used to being hated. I'm used to being in rooms with people who do not like me and continue to conduct business. There's a lot of people who can't do that. And that's why you don't really see me fighting that much on Twitter, but I'm old school. When I see you face to face, I'll be like, what's good? What's the problem? And then that's when people are like, whoa. I'm like, yeah, no, I want to talk about that string of tweets or those string of subtweets that I saw. What's good? And they're not ready for that, because I'm like, I'm not gonna, right? Because you put it on Twitter, people can now like use it against you. You say it face to face. Listen, and that's the thing. There's a lot of keyboard warriors. There's a lot of people. Actually had people say to me like, yo, I didn't really mean it like that. It was just, I troll people. It's just what I do. And I'm like, yeah, but you're not doing it to me again. Right. That's never happening. Like, this ends now. And they're like, yo. I mean, no, but there are, I also think within the Blerd community, there is an amount of toxicity towards Black women that it's strange, because I'm sure you've probably come up against this. When you address it, it's sort of this mob mentality, like, yo, what are you, like a bitch now? What? Like, you can't, what he's talking about is right. It's like, no, actually what he's talking about is very wrong.
Right.
And I don't think people understand that even in mainstream, like Gamergate started basically because of a white dude that was dissed by an ex-girlfriend. Yep. A lot of stuff that happens and that blows up into other things, Comicsgate, etc., is about a guy, doesn't matter what ethnicity, being upset about what a woman says or what a woman represents. And it's like, for the Black geek community to also have that mentality is fascinating to me, because it's like, what they do. Mm-hmm. What racists and misogynists do when they're white men, but you want to mimic that?
That's why, like, so I'm still working a 9 to 5 while I'm doing this. And we have these, what they call associate resource groups. And it's just different groups that highlight just different, communities, whether it's the LGBT community, the Latin community. I'm part of the Black community in there. But I'm also an ally of multiple communities, right? And I did that intentionally because I like to be, if I don't know, let me learn, and then let me be a supportive of it, right? And so it's just funny because, I hold a high position in the role where I'm at the job that I'm at. So I have employees that when I'm telling them about it, I say, but look, don't just only be a part of the one that's your community. Be a part of the others, because trust me, you'll learn so much, you'll get more knowledge, and it'll help you be just a better person in general. So once I do that, and I do that a lot, because I was like, I always wanted to be, I never don't want to be a non-supporter, and like, it's funny, like literally like 2 days ago, I was having a conversation with my daughter, and I was getting ready to prepare for this interview, and she was like, yeah, I'm having a conversation with her about just YouTube, and she was like, no, she asked me about monetization. So I told her what it was. She was like, so why is everybody scared about demonetization? I was telling her what it was. And she was like, okay, well, why is this person not demonetized? And I'm like, so why would they be demonetized? What are they doing that you are watching? And she was like, well, she discriminates against, she discriminates against people's sexuality. Now my daughter is 9.
Wow.
Wait. First, what do you know about sexuality? So then we had a conversation just about people who are part of the LGBT community, and you can love who you love. And then we started talking about racism, and come to find, and just asking, I said, so how do you feel about if you see 2 girls holding hands or 2 boys, or you see some grown-ups of this, 2 boys or 2 men or 2 women? She said, I don't really think about it like that. And I said, oh man, I'm so proud of you for that. And I was like, so what about people that look different from you? And she was like, I don't see that. I said, great. So we had a good conversation just about that. But I was able to have that conversation confidently about, the people of the LGBTQ community based off of some of the information that I got of being an ally.
Yeah.
And again,
I mean, and that 90%, it's about listening.
Yeah.
And also, just like there's toxic people within the Black community, there's toxic people within other communities. And that's the thing, like when I think the next big thing that we're all going to have to deal with is mainstream's definition of what a marginalized voice or minority group is. Because like I had somebody comment on my Twitch stream last month in June, and they were like, oh, you didn't have that many queer creators on for Pride Month. And I was like, that's because they're there all the time.
I was about to say, I see your content?
That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't, and I get it because, Black History Month and Pride Month and, I feel so bad for Latin Heritage Month because it's between like 2 months.
Right.
But it's like, yes, but you need to understand that we're at a really interesting turning point right now where a lot of people like us, for instance, someone Black created Black History Month. It was the shortest month of the year, but it was a way for Black folks to get credit within the mainstream community for what they're doing. But amongst ourselves, we credit ourselves all the time. We talk amongst ourselves all the time. So what I've realized, even within my content, but in the conversations I'm having, yes, I can put a lot of, I always get work February and March, Black History Month, Women's History Month, right? But when it comes to the content I create, I work very hard at being that way all year round. Like I did have a lot of people on my show, different people on my show that were Asian for Asian American Pacific Islander months. But I also fought to get a Pacific Islander interview over at Sci-Fi on my column during that same month. Because people were like, oh, well, it's really for Asian American. I'm like, Pacific Islander month. He's Pacific Islander. They're like, oh, right. So it's just one of those things where, yes, you can get a foot in the door at a lot of mainstream places by hashtag marketing, like making sure that you're around in the popular designated months. But you can stay there by creating good content, and you can stay, have a voice by bringing some other people in. So that's the thing that I think we're going to need to start really taking a look at, making content outside of the designated months that on a mainstream calendar.
And hearing your story just in general about what you like, how that's one of the things that I love about your story is how much you speak up about it. And it made me start, like, once I started research, because like I've been consuming your content, but not with the lens that I had going into this interview, right? So then I started kind of consuming certain things, interviews that was outside of what you did. I mean, outside of your platform, but interviews that you did with other people. And so then I started realizing, I said, man, and I'm gonna let you know today, you've changed a way of thinking with me with one thing. So I talk about how like Apple reached out to us. We was the Black Voice and Earwolf, and we was happy to be that, right? And I'm not taking away from that. But one of the things that I went back, I'm like, dang it, I should have to your line. Hey, if this is the only thing that you're gonna put us on, then I'm gonna drag you into it. I was like, I should have did something like that. And that's one thing that I have not did. It's like we've gotten roles and stuff and things because we are the Black geek. The one thing that I didn't do was make it clear, like, hey, I just want to let you know though I am happy to be here and happy for this opportunity. If this is the only opportunity that you are giving me, we're gonna have a issue. And
yeah, and also bringing other people along. Like there was a last year. Wait, I'm telling you, the pandemic is messing with my sense of time. I think it was last year. Yeah, last year for Black History Month, there was like a huge amount of. I had a lot that they wanted. Sci-Fi actually wanted me to cover a large quantity of content, and I said, okay. So if you want to get 12 to 15 articles out of me that are interviews, well researched or whatever, and you're hitting me up January 15th, I'm going to need a team. Right. So my rate is going to be this, so that I can work with another writer and have somebody else research, scheduling, kind of sort of helping us out. And that's what people don't understand. When you're offered a rate and they're like, oh my God, they're giving me no time to do this. I'm like, well, get an assistant. They didn't give me one. No, they never do. You ask for enough money to pay one, right, and you call somebody. Right. Whether or not it's a friend or somebody who's actually done this or somebody who's trying to get their foot in the door. And there's somebody else, Jermaine McLaughlin, who used to work for DC Comics, who's a great writer, who I was like, listen, I need some help doing this. And so we were also able to pool our resources and interview a lot of really interesting people and put them on over at Sci-Fi. And I remember one of the editors, he's not there anymore, saying like, well, does this really lend itself to, Black History Month? Are they really creating Black content? And I'm like, you are not the person that's allowed to ask or answer this question. You're just not. You're hiring me to do something, which is bring you really interesting geek content for Black History Month. I am doing that. We are laying out exactly what everybody does. And I can tell you right now, and I remember, it's really funny. This particular person fought me on Nicholas Draper Ivy. They're like, but is he really doing stuff in mainstream? And I'm like, wait for it. Right. And he didn't realize that Nicholas was the person who designed the album for Black Panther. Yeah. Nicholas is also, drawing manga and things like that. This is before he got Static, which is what he draws now. He's the artist on Static Shock. I'm sorry, Static Season 1. But he's huge in terms of the Black geek manga community. Yeah. And so that interview has like 20,000 hits on it. Had 20,000 hits on it in a few days. They're like, we didn't know. I'm like, no, of course you didn't know. That's why you hired me.
And that's one of the I choose that. Like, there's a lot of people that I've interviewed that a lot of people didn't know as much, right? It's like mainstream. Like, so I interviewed Marco Bernard. I don't know if you know or familiar with him, but he did the Pride Lands where he did like blacked out Simba and everything. And that was such a dope interview. And so many people was like, because I remember I was like, when he had posted those, I had posted it on our Facebook just to kind of shout him out. Tagged him and everything, and it went crazy. I'm talking about, and I don't know if you remember, but during that time, Beastars came out. So
yes,
like, people was kind of they was getting their the fairies on, and
yes,
like, oh man. So I was like, let me get him on. Let me chop it up with him. Just having a good conversation with him about it. Same thing with Kaiser Stone. Like he's the one that did the Fast Food Wars. I don't know if you
yes,
yeah, the anime, Wendy's and everything. So I'm like, if this is going crazy, let's talk to the person. Everybody's just sharing, talking about how dope it is. Let's get an insight. And his story is amazing. Like, and it's one of those things like the same plight that you have, where you like to chop it up with indie comics creators. And I'm so much a fan of a lot of them and seeing you guys interact, like Bounce Comic, one of my favorite online people. And I saw that, I'm like, oh, he's working with BlerdGurl on mad stuff. I'm like, oh, I love this. You know what I'm saying? So it's like
he's not just working on stuff. That's my boyfriend.
Oh, now that
yeah, he's upstairs.
I literally I just was talking to him like, hey, we've been trying to interview him for a good 3 years, and then
really? Oh yeah, that's just him not knowing his schedule. I'm sorry, babe. I'm just fascinated. We'll make that happen because I'm always yelling about how good his stuff is, but it's like I don't want to beat him over the head, and it's just like with your significant other, you want the best for them, but you can only push them so far. and I try to retweet as much as I can. But so yes, we need to get him on here.
How did I miss that connection?
No, it's fun. And but what you're talking about is very important. Like I tend to go with just left of the popular topic. Mm-hmm. So for instance, Star Trek Discovery, everybody knew it's like next to impossible to get an interview with Sonequa Martin Green because she's so busy and she's got babies, so and it's a pandemic. So when she's not on set, she's home with her children. Like it's just, but when I was trying to like talk to them, I met David Ajala before he was on the show when he was on Supergirl. And actually, no, before that, when he was on a sci-fi show, I met him and we just kept in contact. He's just a lovely person. So I was able to get an interview with him. But when I was talking to him and his people, it dawned on me over and over again, whenever I watched Star Trek Discovery, I would see the co-producer or director's name, Olatunde Osunsami. And I was like, David, I know he's Nigerian and I know you work with him. Can I talk to him? He's like, of course. And it's so funny because everybody talks to Alex Kurtman, who's the creator of the show, the showrunner and everything. But Olatunde Osunsami has been directing shows in geekdom and specifically the Star Trek universe for years, but nobody ever talks to him.
Right.
So that's who I went for. And what's really funny is in getting him, I also happened to score an interview with Alex Kurtzman. So what's really funny about it is talking to these people. Talking to directors and stunt people and actors who are starring in things or co-starring in things, but their name is not as big. You'll be surprised. They're so open to talk to folks. And I just think it's one of those things that everybody wants to go for the star. Everybody wants to go for the drop. Everybody wants to go for the premiere issue, which is great. But artists, movies, shows, and creators all need us if we're, us by like press, blogs, things like that. The second issue, the third issue, the collected edition, the revival, that's when they need us. So you doing coverage like that and tagging people who are, and I don't want people listening to this to just start tagging stars all the time. That's how you get yourself kicked off of Twitter. But start really paying attention to the executive producers, the publicists, the people who are the writers' rooms. Notice if on Twitter now, the writers' rooms have their own Twitter accounts.
I know.
So you have to start really you can really get some great interviews and some, at least some acknowledgement by some places just doing exactly what you did. When you show up, you do an interview, you don't just do it to get it out in the world, you send it back to them. You send it back to the publicist, you send it back to the marketing director, you send it back to the network, whoever, so that they can see, listen, we're talking about this. Because there's a lot of times that what people don't understand is when people are trying to get the word out about a new show or something dropping, whether or not it's Netflix or anything else, they need to report back to the network, advertiser, director, or whatever the property is, who they spoke to.
Yeah.
And if they don't have any proof, like if you make it easy on them, like everything I work on, when the links are done, they go in a spreadsheet so that I can reach back out to somebody and go, here's all the stuff that I covered for you for the past month. You might not know me, but a lot of the stuff that I'm writing about your outlet or this actor or this person is getting a lot of hits. Would you mind seeing if I could getting an interview? And then the other tactic is actually sometimes the actor sees what you've done. Mm-hmm. That definitely happened to me with Louis Tan. Like Louis Tan struck up a conversation with me on Twitter, and he's one of the reasons why I was able to talk to people. I'm convinced he was the reason why I was able to cover Mortal Kombat. Because, so in terms of what you're talking about with Apple, you want to get more of those. You absolutely want to get more of those, but you also want to get paid.
Yeah. And that's the corner where we're at. We're at a point where I think the name is getting good traction because kind of what you just said. So I had the chance two moments. I interviewed Jovian Wade, who plays he plays Cyborg in Doom Patrol, and interviewed him, chopped it up with him and everything like that, and then came full circle when Jupiter's Legacy rolled out, And I was like, oh man, I would love to speak with Mike Wade on it because I think that it would be dope to kind of talk to him about certain topics. And he was like, yeah, no, I saw your interview with Jovi and I know him. And it was like, so it was pretty dope that you did that. I was like, bet. So then same thing, I reached out and I got a chance to speak with Gary Anthony Williams. And so just chopping it up with him, and then through conversation, he was like, yeah, you know, Phil Lamar, probably chop it up. I was like, oh yeah, let him know. And then I didn't hear nothing of him from it. And then I spoke with Deborah Wilson, who, oh my God, love her so much. She is by far
Yeah, she's amazing.
And so it's funny because like I'm so used to just working and figuring it out myself. I'm still trying to get used to people helping. And Deborah, she was like, so who are you trying to get next? And I was like, well, I was trying to get Phil Lamar, but she was like, I'm going to text him. So then.
Oh yeah, no, that's absolutely how it works. The whole first season of the Blerd Girl Live was basically April Rain saying to me, okay, who do you need?
Yeah.
And I'm going, okay, well, I'm trying to talk to Matthew Cherry because Matthew Cherry, you know, did Hair Love and he won an Oscar for Hair Love. But what people don't realize is the executive producer of Hair Love was Peter Ramsey, who directed Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. So when I got him, I was able to turn around and go, hey, Matthew was here. April sent me your way. You think I could talk to Peter? Was like, oh, absolutely. Yeah. And then I had known Tanana Reeve Dew and her work for a minute. And she reached out to me, was like, do you think I could come on your show? I'm like, are you kidding? Yes. And then I was able to speak to N.K. Jemisin through Mickey Kendall and through the fact that N.K. Jemison's a gamer. People don't realize this, but she's a gamer.
And that's what I love too about what you like, just some of the stuff that you bring up. And it's the way that I kind of do a lot of my podcasts is showing a different side of people that you didn't get. And that's why I think, like, you know, I've been successful in getting certain people, because people, they like, oh, I get to come and talk about this. Like when I interviewed Van Lathan, everybody wanted to talk about him checking Kanye, talk about TMZ, get the tea. Me and him, I brought up comic books, and the whole podcast was about comic books. And I was like, what it was is listening to like Charlamagne the God, he was always talking about comic books and always talking about it with Van Lathan. And I said, I bet you Van knows a lot about comics. So I brought it up intentionally, and huge comic book nerd. I'm talking about history. He knows the history of it. And it was one of my favorite interviews because I was like, this is clear. This is exactly what I want my platform to be. I want people to be able to do it. You know, today we released our interview with Tristan Winger, and people know him as Thug Yoda. They know him from, you know, Awkward Black Girl. People probably didn't know that he just now started getting into anime, binge watch Death Note in one setting. Like it was just like you start getting this different look on people. Like, oh, I didn't even know they was into stuff like that. And you know, I got that from a lot of the podcasts and interviews that you did listening, because you'll bring up stuff. You'll have those moments where people be like, yeah, you know, they'll talk about it, and that's what I look for. I look for those moments that people are like, huh, I didn't know you saw that, all right? You know?
Yeah, and that's it's doing the research before the interview. And also a lot of, especially Black folks and Black creators, are being asked the same thing all day, every day. Yep. So when I have been blessed with some people asking for me to interview them because they're tired of, I don't want to be asked the same type of questions. So, and I know if it's going to be an interview with you, it's going to be interesting, which I love. Like, I was able to have a really interesting conversation with Adi Shankar, the creator of Castlevania, recently. And he's got some amazing stuff coming out. And it's one of those things where, but you start where you are.
Yeah.
That's the thing that I always tell people. I already had, again, a lot of people won't take a chance on you, not because they don't know your name. It's because there's no proof that you can say what you do. So you were talking about going to conventions. I was going to conventions years ago and just bringing, like, I don't have it with me, but my little Zoom recorder and using a phone, or having a friend like record me. And I was just like, hey, I'm at Ep.5. I'm at, you know, the Black Comic Book Convention in Harlem. I'm at, you know, New York Comic Con, running around with my cell phone. Like, wherever I went, I would create content for myself. Like if I might've been hired to be on stage at Emerald City Comic Con, but I'm going to run around and get coverage for myself for whether or not it was social media or was me. I've got tons of stuff. Actually, now I'm trying to like edit it and get a lot of my Patreon subscribers get to see behind the scenes stuff that I can't, like I haven't shared. But it was about getting content and putting it out there in a way that I wanted to be seen. And then when people came around and they said, hey, listen, you know, do you have any examples of interviews you've done? Sure. And I would just send them either to my, before I had a reel, send them to my YouTube page. Now I have a work with me page that has some of that stuff aggregated, but that's how I was able to get access. But before that, I was basically using my influencer status to get me freelance work. And I still do, because I'm still competing with a lot of other people to get interviews and stuff. So I would, as the Blerd Girl, be invited to something and then pitch the content to Sci-Fi, Nerdist, whatever. They pick it up. They might pick it up. They pick it up. I'm paid for it, which is great. Or I will pitch an idea and they'll pay me to write it because they know I got the interview. Or I would just put it on my site. That happened with Alita Battle Angel. Like, Sci-Fi didn't send me out there. 20th Century Fox did. They flew me to, and that was unpaid. They were like, they flew me to New Zealand to interview Robert Rodriguez and like get a whole tour of Weta Digital. That was like the experience of a lifetime for me. That was when I was like, oh, okay, I can really do this. And that was 2019. I thought Sci-Fi would want that. They had sent 2 other people, so they didn't want the content. Nurse had already covered it, so nobody wanted it. And I had people like, oh my God, what are you going to do? And I'm like, you forget I'm an editor, right?
Right. Oh
so I just edited my own stuff and put it on YouTube. And the team that repped Warner Brothers sent me flowers. They were like, you had the best coverage of the behind the scenes stuff that anybody else had.
You are just speaking the language of what I see with this podcast that we are doing. Like literally what you just explained is exactly what I want to do with Geekset and what we're actively working to kind of build. Because yeah, that's the thing. It was like, you know, I'm a indie hip hop artist before podcasting and jumping into space. So coming from that mindset, I was like, you know, knowing that if I do an interview with somebody, they're just going to put the link out. It's up to me to blow it up. So I'm going to
absolutely. Every place I'm invited. This is why your friend thought I wasn't going to be able to make it. Every place I'm invited, and I've done this for years. Somebody will invite me to be on a panel. I will ask them, hey, do you need a headshot? Are you creating art for this? They say, oh, no, we don't really have the bandwidth for that. I'm like, okay, do you mind if I do? And they're like, no, not at all. And I will create a panel, banner, everybody's headshot and everything like that. And then I would get invited back to things because they know if I'm invited that I am going to promote it.
And that's exactly what we do. I'm like, I'm like, listen here, I don't care if it's a small magazine or a big magazine. I don't care if it's a small blog or a big blog. Whatever we're featured on, we're going to create graphics. We're going to promote it. We're going to hashtag it. We're going to tag the people involved. We're going to make it seem like it's this huge event. And yeah, same thing. We've got the people that reach back out. That's how with Crunchyroll. When they brought us, when they said press, we just got the press. Now you've been it. You can just apply for a press pass. You can apply for press passes, but the way we promoted it, we was like Geekset at Crunchyroll Expo. Catching the camera, we gonna interview, you know what I'm saying? And
that's exactly how you do it. And I used to, even before I was getting press passes, I would just the 2 things I would try to do is either get on a panel, because what people don't understand is when you go to New York Comic Con or any of these other conventions, if the panel is accepted, everyone in the panel gets passes for the weekends. So it's not just, you get to show up that day. You get to run in and out of the place the entire weekend. So all I would need to be is on one panel and I would have access to everything. And so that's how I would get in and out of New York Comic Con and get access to the press level, which you want because there's a separate bathroom. You don't know how important that is until you go.
No, not even just a separate bathroom, but just that area that you get to chill.
To work, yeah.
You can put all your equipment there. You got the back room. It is the best to have that.
That is gold. Yeah, that is gold. So even when I was hired by Sci-Fi to be a panelist, I would still get a press pass so that because I'm not even being on a panel, being on the stage that stage pass does not get you into the press area. I would still fight for my press pass. So, but even if you can't get a press pass and you're just trying to get in and you're just trying to get put on, the issue is being able to cover it. I mean, right now is really, really a good time because everything is virtual. So you can attend all these virtual events for free and then just cover the content. This is the Geekset coverage of whatever. And so I think for me, the big thing for me is I'm a big fan, like I said, of everybody's talking about this one thing, I go just to the left. And then also, if it's a very crowded space, I'm not a huge fan of crowded spaces anymore, including real life ones, because of the pandemic. But a lot of people ask me like, oh, why wouldn't you try and do a live show on YouTube? Why are you doing it on Twitch? And I said, well, when everybody was letting go a lot of their staff last year, Collider and all these other places, everybody and their mother was starting their live YouTube shows and podcasts and, setting up their stream labs and everything, which was great. But it became a very crowded space. And I decided like, well, one, I didn't know Twitch that well, so it was a challenge. And while I had like things on, was suspended for me for a while, some of my bills were suspended. I didn't have to pay my mortgage and stuff for a minute. I teamed up with 1's operating system, who has here in New York a local space where people can game. But they were expanding their Twitch channel. They were getting into the podcast vertical. They were getting into just chatting, because just chatting is the #1 vertical on Twitch. And so somebody I knew that worked there was like, hey, we're giving people, they're doing shows. Would you like to do your show over here? And I was like, sure. So I got a full production team to just do my show every week. And that's how I actually got to learn Twitch before I moved things over onto my channel last month. And it was the best learning experience because Twitch is really trying to, this month is talk show month on the platform, and they've never had that before. It's owned by Amazon, so there's money. And I haven't played a game yet, and I have affiliate status. Like and I'm not saying that I won't. I'm just saying that this is an untapped resource, and on top of everything else, just like many other platforms, there's not that many Black women there.
There's not.
So whenever I have a better chance of being highlighted when somebody goes, well, where's your diversity? I've been on the front page like a bunch of different times, not through OSMIC, but I've been there. And it's just been it's been fascinating to watch, getting to know the people behind the scenes of Twitch, getting to know, because I'm very big about that. Like I always come in the side door. Like I always come in, I'm like, yes, I can grind to get the bits and things like that. And that's why you can't subscribe to my channel yet, because I don't have the hours. I absolutely think you need to grind and you shouldn't jump in line for that. But when I say come in the side door, I like to observe things from not just the audience's perspective, but from the marketing perspective, the showrunner perspective, the director perspective. And Twitch has got a lot of potential. So does Netflix. People don't realize you can live stream on Amazon now. Like there's a lot that's coming out of that end of things. And not that Twitch is perfect. They've got problems just like YouTube does. And I'm still going to be leaning into my YouTube content. And you guys are much better at your podcasts than I am. I had to sort of put my podcast on hold while I sorted out all this other content because my Twitch show kind of blew up. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I need to make sure that I show up every week with a guest for them live.
Right.
And that took out a lot of my time outside of just, paying the bills. So now I'm going to be taking a lot of the content that a lot of people missed and repurposing it for all of these different platforms. And
just repurposing that.
I'm repurposing everything. I have interviews that because what I do is all of my interviews, like you, I usually do like this, but my column on Sci-Fi, which is every other week, on Fridays for Indie Comic Spotlight, I usually have an hour conversation, a 45-minute conversation with the person, but it's only about 1,600 words. So that's not the full interview. We talked about more than that. Right. That's the stuff my Patreon subscribers are going to start seeing. That's the stuff that's going to start going up and turning into podcast episodes and bites and stuff like that. Yeah. I'm technically on hiatus from my show right now because I'm working on a big project. Ooh. And I have all this content that I'm kicking out. So it looks like I'm everywhere.
All right. No, that's actually very, very smart because like I said, we started repurposing some of our just clips. Like one of the things trying to master social media. And I said, you know, I would get into this habit, or we would get into this habit of you do the episode, we put the clip out, but then by the time the next episode, everything that happened with this episode, we're not really focusing on anymore.
Nah, you can't do that. For every one piece of content I put out, I would say 20% of my effort goes into creating new content. 80% of my effort goes into yelling about it.
Yeah, and that's what we started doing. It's funny because like I repurposed, like I said, just in general. I was like, oh man, let me see if I start throwing some of these clips up on TikTok, and I'm throwing some of the older interviews, and people are like, oh my god, what is this podcast? And I'm like, huh. And so like it's like that little awakening. It's like, oh man, and I was like,
no, that's exactly what you do. I got into TikTok late. I got into last year, but I'm absolutely going to start doing that. I have some people, it's really funny because somebody came for me with my comments the other day about like being a fake geek girl. I'm like, oh, you new here.
Are you familiar with Justy Lee's?
Yes.
So she just got on TikTok probably during the pandemic. Now,
yeah,
I've been following her, chopping it up with her for quite some time. You know what I'm saying? She's a supporter of the Geekset podcast. Huge gamer. I'm talking about like her cosplay, next level.
Mm-hmm.
So when she get on TikTok, she had posted like, this is like when because she moved to the States recently. So
yeah,
she had posted like a video, just her and her gaming setup and everything. And then people in the comments like, oh, was that your boyfriend setup? And I'm like, do y'all not know who
they don't. And again, I don't fight. I just right. show. So I'm doing the same thing though. I think this is the other thing though. What the pandemic has done is it's gotten us out of the Instagram mindset and got us into the TikTok mindset. Because think about it. Instagram is like, let me show you my beautiful, the beautiful things that I have here. That's your Instagram. TikTok is like, you just roll out of bed and you're like, listen, I don't know, but that's the difference. And that's how you got to know how to create your content for different platforms. And I think what I've learned is even the way people put bites up on there, it's relevant and they're still using the tags and the music and stuff like that, but it's going to be different than what I maybe put up on Instagram. Although Instagram Reels is really, giving them a run for their money. But yeah, I definitely think there's gems in some of the old stuff that you've talked about. 10-minute, like a clip could be a 10-minute clip out of an hour-long interview. It could be a bunch of different things. But I don't want to talk too much about that. If you said you had questions for me,
I know, I was like, let's get into some questions and everything because we could probably talk about this forever. It sounds like so. Let's get into some questions. So one of the questions that they had is that out of all the fandoms that you know about, if you had to live in one of these fandom worlds, which world would you live in?
Oh God, that's really hard because
it is. When I saw it, I said that's a good question, but it's hard.
That's a hard question because I like fans more than I like fandoms.
Okay.
Because a lot of fandom, I feel in the past 5 years or so has been sort of weaponized.
Okay.
It's sort of like fandom has become the de facto cheap way of marketing something. So if I had to say, okay, some of the nicest fandoms I think are the Doctor Who fandom and the Star Trek Discovery fandom, Discovery specifically. But I don't know if I want to live in a fandom because you can find toxicity everywhere. I would rather have my own fandom where I have people that are interested in a bunch of different things and y'all come hang out with me. It's sort of the equivalent of, I don't want to go out. I want everybody to come to my house.
Right. So a good transition from that in anime, if you had to live in an anime world, which world would you live
in? That's funny because anybody who follows my show knows I'm a huge Blood Blockade Battlefront fan because it takes place in an alternate universe of New York where there's like there's demons and it's like a parallel universe and everything, and I love the magic that's there, so my brain immediately went there, but it probably would be so dangerous.
And that's the main caveat of it, because I'm like, I love Dragon Ball Z, but if I'm not a Saiyan, I would not want to be in that.
That's what I'm saying. If you in one of them buildings, you're dead.
Yeah.
I think I also like the universe of Ghost in the Shell.
Ooh.
I mean, Ghost in the Shell was.
That's your show, though. That's your show.
Yeah, that's my gateway anime. But I think I also like that world because it's just in the future where I'm fascinated by cyborgs. I don't think I am. I don't think we're almost there. That moment of singularity is almost upon us. I don't think I have the guts to do it yet. I need to see somebody near me that gets a cyborg implant that doesn't need it for health reasons. Right. But the concept of being able to just plug in and just get that wealth of knowledge, I am definitely fascinated by it. So I would probably say those two.
Okay, quick question. So this, not necessarily with a cyborg, but it's one of the things that I wanted to ask you. So you've been on record and you said that you hate how Endgame has explained time travel. However,
but Loki,
I was gonna say, has it changed for you?
Yeah, but what's interesting is now knowing what we know. Actually, yes, it's changed.
Okay,
but also now knowing what we know about the Ancient One in Doctor Strange and the fact that they were lying about the fact that they were using parts of Dormammu's power to stay infinite. They could have been lying about time travel when they were explaining it to Bruce Banner in that one scene. They could have been lying because remember, the Ancient One would have known the existence of the Timekeepers and would have known the existence of the TVA and would have known all of that. So I think they were lying to them, not lying to him when they were talking about, no, you can't use this because you'll mess everything up. Yeah, well, I really enjoyed Loki, also Doctor Who, because it just felt like episodes of Doctor Who for me, like the later episodes, not the earlier ones. Like some of the David Tennant episodes is what it felt like to me. The way they explained it, first of all, I love the memes of the fact that the TVA is a Black-owned business. I'm here for that.
Yeah,
I'm here for that. And I also think, even though a lot of people are upset at the way, Sylvie killed Kang, I think he was baiting her. I think he wanted to die so that he could come back as his alternate self. I don't think that was by accident at all. Because he already knew what was happening.
That's what me and my fiance, when we was watching it, I was telling we was watching it, and then I was like, he's not even flinching. She keeps on coming at him, and he's just sitting there. I was like, he's not scared to die because he knows what's going to happen.
He knows exactly what's going to happen, and he's like, "See you soon." Right. You know, so I definitely think, but I don't think people understand the gravity of what Sylvie did. Mm-hmm. The fact that she did kill him and has unleashed all of the multiverses means everybody is coming back. Natasha's coming back. Gamora's coming back. Everybody could come back because they could live in their alternate timeline.
I didn't think
about it all,
but the way I broke it down, I was like, everything that we've seen is canon now. No matter.
Yes, that's what I said. That's how they solved their Sony problem.
Oh yeah,
that's how they solve the fact that like Sony has this. Also, a lot of people. I don't know how many people caught this. Well, have you seen Black Widow?
Yes, of course.
Okay, so I'm not sure. I'm trying to remember this character's name. There was an X-Men that was in the movie. Ursa Major is in that movie. Ursa Major is a Russian X-Men that turns into a bear.
Oh,
he is actually a mutant.
Okay,
and he's in Black Widow. So technically, that he's the first instance of an X-Men being in an MCU film. But if we're also going to look at Loki as the end of Loki as breaking up all the multi-universes, that means all of the X-Men films, unfortunately, are all now canon. Yeah. So we're not going to know for another,
I hope they play off of it. I hope they call it like a weird universe name or something.
Yeah, I hope it's like, yes, I hope it's universe 90 Earth 93,000 or something. I hope it's completely insane, because I still have not been pleased with the X-Men universes that Sony put out. Possibly the first one, but yeah, Days of Future Past pissed me off. They all pissed, because they had a chance to reset there.
And that's what I thought they were going to do, and I was just like, come on, man. And
but they ignored Scott Summers' daughter and everything, and I'm like, that was an opportunity. And like, do you know what's really, really funny? One of the first like paid hosting gigs I ever got was for it was with BET, believe it or not, and it was the X-Men Apocalypse cast, talking to all of them. And it's so funny because none of us had seen the film. Okay. And I was like interviewing them, and everybody was so excited about it. And then when it came out, I was like, I was so upset. I was so incredibly upset, because I was like, Apocalypse isn't even really big, and Storm, okay, yeah. And then y'all just straight up ignored Jubilee. Like, yeah. I'm so happy that actress has gone on to do so much more than that, because she was just shafted in that movie. So yeah, and then the last X-Men movie that Sony did, what was that, Dark Phoenix?
I watched that everything told me not to watch it, and then finally I think it was a free on a streaming site. And I said, all right, let's check it out. And we checked it out, and I was not pleased at all.
I mean, I don't. But
I just hate, like, the same reason why I'm upset with Fantastic Four, same reason why I'm upset with it. Like, you have two major storylines, Fantastic Four with Doom and everything, and even with Silver Surfer's one of my favorite. I'm like, you guys botched all of this, and then we had a chance to reboot it and botched Fantastic Four. Dark Phoenix, you did it twice, and both of them was horrible.
No, but I knew it was going to be bad when we saw ads of Storm in the rain with an umbrella.
Right.
I was like, all of this is wrong. Every part of this scene is wrong. Outside of what that actress has said or whatever, I know she's been problematic too, but like, yeah, man. No, I'm really excited to see what Feige does with the future. I'm very excited. We know he's doing something with Fantastic Four. I really need them to quit pushing these. I mean, I know we can't control the schedule because of the pandemic, but I really need them to stop pushing Blade, because I need Blade's schedule to stay exactly where it is. Because I'm really looking forward to seeing Mahershala as Blade. It's going to be incredible.
All right, so last two segments, and then we can get out of here. So we do what we call top 5 and everything like that. So
okay,
now not necessarily fandoms, but just like properties. What are your top 5 like fan properties that you enjoy? And it could be,
wow.
Here's the thing, caveat to make it easy: it does not have to be in order, and it can be currently what you're indulged in.
Okay, so across genres, I'm definitely a Demon Slayer fan and a My Hero Academia fan. But if we're going to look at anime, I'm a Death Note fan. Wow. Like all of the manga, all of the anime. I've even seen the musical. Like it's amazing. Yes, it's a Korean musical. It's awesome. It's Death Note is one of those stories, kind of like Ghost in the Shell, that makes you think. And I love anime that has action, but also makes you think. I've already talked about Ghost in the Shell, so that's obviously going to be in there. So let's say Death Note, Ghost in the Shell. In terms of indie comics, all right, comics as a whole, I don't want to say I've been off-put by mainstream comics, but I definitely lean more into comics. So I did not think I was going to like X-Men again until Jonathan Hickman's run. Like I am old school X-Men. I love what was done with those characters, but Power of X, House of X brought me back in.
Okay.
That whole run has actually been absolutely fantastic. Okay. And then I would also say, if we're going to look indie, this is so hard. Another really good story that I just don't think gets a lot of love. There's a couple of them. I'm going to say it's not Invincible because I actually didn't read Invincible. I just started watching it like everybody else. The comic 100 Bullets, and you can now read all of it.
Oh.
I'm trying to think of when it actually started. The very first
you got a guy
one.
on Discord who he has unlimited resources for like these comic runs. So when
Okay, yeah. So it's a Brian Azzarello written comic, and also this is the thing that indie comics can do that mainstream comics can't do a lot. Indie comics can many times, especially if you're looking at Image and Valiant and stuff, they will keep an artist and a writer for the entire run.
Yeah,
it doesn't change. Where Marvel and DC, because they're cranking things out so fast, no one has the schedule or the bandwidth to do that, so they keep having to change. Brian Azzarello and Eduardo Risso did an amazing job on 100 Bullets, and the premise basically is, short and long of it is, there is trying to give the shortest version. There's a man with a suitcase that shows up and gives you a choice. And these are all different people in all different scenarios. You can use one of these bullets and get revenge on a person, kill them for wronging you and get away with it. Or you can choose not to. But in every single instance, we get to hear this seemingly normal person, this extraordinary horrible thing that they've been through and the choice that they make. And it is fascinating. So I tell people all the time that is one that they absolutely have to read. Saga is now done.
Yeah, I think
Saga is another one that if you haven't read is epic. And I don't even know. And it's really funny. Saga's through Image Comics, and it is Brian K. Vaughan and Fiona Staples. I think Fiona Staples even said it. She always, the whole point of this comic was to draw it in a way, create in a way that would be virtually impossible to adapt. And I think they've done it, because unless the outfit had $1 gazillion, I have no idea how they would be able to recreate the worlds that they've created in this book.
Okay.
Unless Netflix picked it up as a series and they did it in pieces. That was 4. I can't think of the 5th one.
Started off with My Hero and
okay. Well, those I kind of like tangentially are always there. So I think that's enough. I gave you comics, I gave you anime, I gave you a comic book.
Yeah, that's
comic book series.
All right, so last segment that we do is just recommendation. It could be something that you're watching, you're reading, you're listening to, but something that you think that our fans, our listeners, our viewers should check out.
Oh, there's a lot. This is another hard one. Okay. It's really funny because a lot of people talk about, one of the things that I will fully admit this, in going, like, doing this full time, I've ended up leaning into a lot more mainstream stuff outside of my column than I used to. And I kind of missed that, and I'm going to be picking that up again. But one of the most underrated Black comic book creators is Johnny Christmas. And Johnny Christmas is a writer who actually comes from writing novels and things like that. But he has a series out called Tartarus that is absolutely astounding. And if you've never heard of him and you want to like figure out more about him, I did interview him for Sci-Fi, shameless plug there. So if you look at the Indie Comic Spotlight column and look up Johnny Christmas, you'll find him. He wrote a comic with called Angel Catbird that got really that he's kind of known for because it's with Margaret Atwood, who is kind of like a very high-end sci-fi writer, white woman. But Johnny, what he's done with Tartarus, it's like I feel like it's Lord of the Rings and Star Wars in space with brown people. It's amazing. And he's drawn it and he's written it, and it's absolutely phenomenal. Another horror comic that I don't think most people are, and it's weird because I'm not really a big horror comic fan, and people tease me because I can, for some reason, watch horror if it's anime or if it's in short bites. But I'm like not gonna set up and watch like Friday the 13th with anybody because it's terrifying. That's Chuck. That's Bounce. Bounce the comic is a huge horror head. If you want to know anything about horror and gaming, that's
He hasn't
your
convinced
guy.
He hasn't convinced you to try Fear Street yet?
No, he wants me to, but he can't convince me yet. Oh my God. Upgrade Soul is an indie comic that was not only was it written by Ezra Clayton Daniels, who, yes, he is a Black man. He's mixed. And I have a lot of people ask me that question because he could be white passing, but he's not. He's a Black man. Ezra, he was actually only the second recipient of the Dwayne McDuffie award for diversity in comics. It's so hard to explain what Upgrade Soul is, but it is a beautiful, beautiful comic. And it is literally about, it is body horror, a little bit is in there. And it's all about this couple. It's an elderly couple, Black man, Latin woman. Where do you ever see that? Who basically give all the retirement money to become part of this rejuvenation program. And the rejuvenation program it's not quite a hoax, but the science isn't quite there yet. And what they accidentally do is make clones of them. They don't make them younger. They make clones of them. So the goal was to actually clone these people and put their consciousness into these clones so that they think they are now younger. But what happens is the procedure goes wrong and the clones come out extremely deformed, but they do have their consciousness, they do have their minds, and they're actually genius level. So it turns into who has the right to exist. And it is a fascinating story. And there is action in it, and I don't want to give it away. It's crazy. It's insane. Those are two that people are sleeping on. And when it comes to shows and movies and stuff, if you don't have a lot of time, I tell people to follow the Dust channel on YouTube, because Dust is short sci-fi films. And when I say short, there's anywhere from 5 minutes to like 30 minutes. And there's a lot of African directors in there. There's a lot of Middle Eastern directors in there. There's white folks in there too, but there's also a lot of stars that, Dust is an amazing channel. And then I think my last recommendation would be, I'm into a lot of Netflix Korean shows. This probably is just out of also like stemming from my like love of K-pop too, but that's another show. If you have a chance to watch Kingdom, it is one of the best told zombie series that I've ever seen. It takes place in feudal Korea, and how they come up with the zombie apocalypse happening and how the kingdom covers it up is fascinating. So if you get a chance to watch Kingdom on Netflix, and that is again the horror, it's I don't want to call it an anthology, it's a series. Okay. You should absolutely check it out. It's fascinating.
Oh, thank you for hitting all. You didn't have to hit every one. It was literally, you could have just picked one of what you were watching, viewing, or reading, or something like that. But I do appreciate that you went through all of them. All right, so last thing, what's coming up for you?
So it's actually kind of going on now. Skybound Expo, I'm co-hosting that. Also, I am hosting for San Diego Comic-Con on July 24th. Oh, actually, you know what? Let me just triple check that. I got to make sure it's not the 26th. Pretty sure it's July 24th. I am hosting the Genlock panel at San Diego Comic-Con. And I got a chance to, and I'm just going to yes, July 24th is when it's going to premiere at 9 p.m. Eastern. So I think that's 6 p.m. in LA, 6 p.m. Pacific. It's the first Genlock panel ever to be at San Diego Comic-Con, and I got to talk to, wait for it, Dakota Fanning, Michael B. Jordan, and the new showrunner for season 2, Daniel Dominguez. Yeah. So what people, I don't know if you've watched the Genlock anime or not, but it was initially only on Rooster Teeth. They've been picked up by HBO Max, so you can now watch all of season 1 on HBO Max. And it's got an all-star cast, Maisie Williams and all these different people are doing voices, David Tennant. But it was co-created, co-produced by Rooster Teeth and Michael B. Jordan's company, Outlier. So behind the scenes, it's actually one of the most diverse animated shows out right now. And for those of you who are fans of season 1, yes, there is a season 2 coming, and we talk all about it in the San Diego Comic-Con episode. So you definitely have to check that out. I'm on hiatus from the Blerd Girl Live, but Tuesdays, I'm now streaming on Twitch actually more than just Tuesdays. So it's Tuesdays from 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern, and now Thursday mornings from 8 p.m. to 10 a.m. Eastern. And that Thursday morning brew show is actually going to turn into like me live doing a morning show very soon. That's coming. But on all these slots, I'm now putting a lot of my interviews that people might have missed, like the ones I talked about with Peter Ramsey and Matthew Cherry, as well as people that folks might have missed, like Christina Ariel, who's the host of the Star Wars High Republic show. And a lot of people, like, I don't expect everybody to show up for 2 hours every Tuesday. So it's just like another place to find a lot of my stuff. So definitely check out the show. My podcast is coming back on a regular schedule now, so I can compete with Geekset. But yeah, and then there's interviews that I have that are also dropping with LaShawn Thomas, the director of Yasuke, the writer of Yasuke, that's coming up too. And a lot of stuff that just has been sitting in the archives that I haven't been able to show people, like casts of Black Lightning and things like that. Okay. So definitely look for some of the renewed content, and definitely check out some of the new stuff coming up. And then I'm also working on a book. I can't tell anybody what the book is about yet, but definitely keep your ear to the street, because that's going to be announced probably by this fall, I think.
All right, sweet. All right, dope. All right, and so where can my people find you? I mean, you kind of already went to a little bit, but just
I'm the Blerd Girl everywhere. TheBlerdGurl. You can usually find me on Twitter, but you can also check me out at blerdgirl.com. But the two places I regularly hang out are Twitter and Instagram. And I'm also now on TikTok, obviously. So if you put in the Blerd Girl, you'll probably find me on most platforms.
All right. Well, this has been Geekset Podcast. It's been 1-on-1 with Deuces. I've been your boy Deuces. This has been the amazing Blerd Girl, and we are out. Peace.
Flawless victory.